Thank you for joining us in the sound booth today. I hope that you found this information from this episode useful. You can find me on all social media platforms at I am Julie Turney. That's I am Julie Turney. And you can find this episode or this show on most digital platforms, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Thanks to Anchor FM and Rock Solid Entertainment for helping me to put this content together for you. And I will see you again in the next Sound Off. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the HR Sound Off podcast show. My name is Julie Turney, and I am your host. And today with me, we are going to talk about the art of networking with Heidi Torres. Heidi, how are you doing today?
Doing fabulous. Thank you, Julie, for having me on your show.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's tell the audience, who is Heidi Torres and how did you get your start and what do you do?
That's a lot.
I
know. So I am a HR professional now, but I started out in sales and kind of worked my way into becoming an HR supervisor for a retailer. And this is how the role was kind of pitched to me. Mm-hmm. You could get to source everyone for all the departments. You will onboard and train all the new employees. You can create schedules and be that resource to make employees successful. That spoke to me right there. That spoke to me, all of that, right? I'm like, okay, sign me up. I want to, yes, I'm going to do that. Uh-huh. But once I got into it, and I did love it, mind you, I did want to expand and go outside just the retail side of things.
Right.
And after doing some research, I found out you need to, or you should, not that you need to, but someone with my lack of HR whole background, I needed a degree. I needed to become SHRM CP, or at least that was recommended, right?
Yeah.
And then when I was in school, went back to get my degree, they said, you need to go network because it's super sad that a HR person only knows 42 people on LinkedIn.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, oh, okay.
Fix that.
So, but they didn't teach you in school how to network or anything like that. And I did. I went full board into it. And have met and continue to meet some amazing people through networking. And the pandemic hit. Right? And so networking changed and really how we do HR.
Right.
A lot of it changed.
It did.
So all that and the pandemic, I thought, well, I can still help people, right? So I did write a book to help people, hopefully enjoy networking, but at least know how to network. I started different little programs like HR Heidi Heads Up and HR Heidi Highlights to spotlight and help people in transition.
Okay.
And then I worked as an HR generalist and loved it. Absolutely loved that. I did HR internships, fantastic companies that I worked with there. And now,
drum roll.
So now it's kind of interesting. I'm kind of essentially an executive recruiter for Connect Recruiting.
Okay.
And I still do speeches and presentations on networking and connecting people all over the place. So that's kind of leading to that.
I got you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So you've had quite a journey in your HR career so far, correct?
Yes.
That sounds like a lot.
And still enjoying
amazing.
It.
Yes, that's amazing. So let me just ask you quickly, because as I was listening to you share your story, it kind of like piqued my interest. You said that you spent time as an HR generalist, but now your focus is mainly recruiting. So how did you figure out like what you liked out of all the things that we do as HR generalists to then be able to narrow it down to recruiting? And this is what you're going to do, recruit.
Well, honestly, so when I was HR generalist, the role there the company I was working with, it was still in different phases. And so I moved on to recruiting really to expand my experience, not really to limit or anything. I just really wanted to learn more about it. Right? I felt like it would help me more from the job seeker side, how to really help people land that. I still love all the other parts of HR. I mean, I love employee relations. I was telling someone earlier today, I actually really enjoy open enrollment season.
Okay.
I know, it's so bizarre. Helping people pick and choose, or more from the employee side, to help them pick for them to choose. All right. And then get them actually into the system and finding out what's best for them. Love that. I mean, that was actually one of my favorite times on that. So really this role here, I don't know how far I will continue on the whole recruiting side. I do enjoy it. But it was really to learn more about it, right? Just to understand what's going on. And I've been the hiring manager. So now understanding the other side, because I realize they don't talk to each other sometimes, like hiring managers and recruiters don't necessarily, or even the other managers within the company don't really necessarily talk to the hiring manager and the recruiter, right? So learning those different components and
connecting the dots.
Bring it together.
Awesome. Yeah. And you raise a really good point, because I think when I think about, like, let's say the medical profession, if you decide that you're going to be a general practitioner, you touch every aspect of the medical profession, right? So you go through different rotations. And I think that that's a really good way for HR professionals to kind of like get a solid footing of like what every piece of our profession is, because we are almost like, we're very much like first responders of the organization. And if you think about us as in that medical practitioner phase, like being able to touch every single facet of our function really is important. If we want to be a great generalist, then we should really aim to do that. So that's a really great way to get your feet in to each aspect and learn more.
And I think even as you go up, the HR manager and the directors and CHRO, I mean, they oversee all of that, right? They're all of that. And so you need to have that expertise, a little bit of all over, and then be able to work it together. So that was important for me, to try and learn all the different pieces.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that 100%. And I would definitely advise, like, anyone listening to this episode today, if you are like trying to figure out or navigate yourself as an HR generalist, try to touch a little bit of everything so that you get a better understanding of like what it takes to do what you do and bring the joy, the knowledge, the experience that you bring to the workplace makes you more well-rounded. Yeah,
I totally agree.
Great. So you raised this point, which I think is a very big sticking point for me in particular, and I guess for you in some ways, of networking. It's something that I don't do very well, and I've struggled with it for most of my life as an introvert, as a socially awkward person. Like, it's something that I struggle with quite a bit. What brought you to the point where you decided, look, I think that I could write this really great book that is going to help people to be able to network better?
Well, kind of that adage, if people keep asking you the same thing over and over, maybe you should do something about it.
Yes.
When I went back to school, I did start networking. I went to all these different events, and then I joined SHRM and the student chapter SHRM. And then I went out and joined the local community chapter, professional SHRMs chapters, and went to all their different events, went to their educational events. Even before I became SHRM certified, I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to learn from other people. And Dallas HR, which here is one of the local chapters, and actually one of the mega SHRM chapters for local ones, because it's over 1,000 members, but they actually have a mentorship program. Right. And so immediately jumped on that. Right. But I want to be paired up with an HR professional that was higher up and learn from their experiences. Right. And see how I can adapt or learn that way. But through all of that, I went through I'm an introvert too. So like you, I'm an introvert too. And I did some faux pas, right? I went through a lot of different networking faux pas, but then I improved. And then when the pandemic hit, I really started researching, and we actually had a lot of time because most of us were remote working from home at the very least. So they're willing to take the Zoom calls and the Teams and the Slack calls and stuff like that. And I reached out to people and I just started interviewing. I started interviewing people who were much better at networking than me.
Right.
Right. And all different levels of companies and how did they do it? And then I started just researching and pulling that together because I wanted people to know that if I could grow my network, that you could too, because I'm by all means a socially awkward person too. But if I could do it, you could do it. But I also wanted you to learn the lessons from the people who have been doing it. Right. Had thousands and thousands of connections. And what were they doing?
Yes.
And essentially what they all had in common was that it wasn't a sales approach, right? It wasn't, let me sell you a product. It wasn't at that at all. And I think that's a lot of people dread because they think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
To how can I help you? That was more the approach to almost everyone I talked to was how could they help someone else? That was the common theme. They wanted to help someone else.
Yeah.
Right. And the byproduct of that was that their networks grew because they were helping so many people.
Yeah.
So that spoke to me and I wanted to share that.
Yes. So take us into your book. Tell us like what we'll find or what experience we'll have when we start to read your book. Maybe let me rephrase that a little bit. Who is your book for?
Well, I do actually dedicate a whole chapter for introverts like us.
Yay!
But the target reader, I would honestly say, are those who are new to networking, right? Or want to learn a different approach from what they think networking might be.
Right.
And those who are new to career, right? Or students that are reaching into their early parts of the career or transitioning to a new career.
Yes.
Those who are my target audiences, because I think they will get the most benefit. And servant leaders, quite frankly, servant leaders are the key part, because if you are naturally a servant leader, then you're going to resonate with my book because it's all about taking the opportunities of serving others to grow your network, to advance, taking those opportunities will help you advance your career, right? And recognizing it. I think a lot of people think volunteering takes so much time or is too much time. And it's really just not true.
Yeah.
You know, you can help others and help yourself all at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. And I really love that you've taken the time to write this book because, again, I think that when we're talking about entering the world of work and when we put theory and practice together, one of the things that we definitely have not been taught is the art of networking and understanding and valuing networking. I think that for most people, they feel like it's a given that if you went to school, you had to make friends. And so it is some form of networking, right? But when you're networking from a professional capacity, if you look at it from the perspective that, yes, you're trying to build friendships and you're trying to build community, then it can be a lot easier for you to do that. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of you're trying to create affiliations and you're trying to create potential opportunities for partnerships and things like that, networking can seem a bit more daunting. So what is the difference?
That's a great question. And I would say the difference there's really not much difference except really how you perceive it.
Yes.
And that's the biggest part is I think when we meet someone or like to be a friend, we don't actually say, I'm going to meet so-and-so to be their friend, right? I mean, it's a byproduct of kind of what happens when you start learning about the other person or wanting to learn about the other person. And it kind of goes the same with networking and friendship would tie hand in hand.
Yes.
Now, drawing the line, I guess, is so to speak, is there are some people you only want to deal with professionally.
Right.
And then there are people you don't want to deal with, in your professional world. Yeah. They're going to be they'll be your your true best friends and your family, but they're not going to really go into both sides.
Yes.
But sometimes one can help out the other. And this is where that, like what I call net friendships, kind of blur together.
Yes.
So you want to treat both groups of people with respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be helpful to both groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
And build that relationship of trust, because it all really comes down to the trust factor.
The trust,
right?
Yes.
We hear you do business with people that you like,
and trust. Yep.
And so same thing with your friends. Your friends are going to like, know, and trust them.
Mm-hmm.
So building that relationship first. Now, as you go, you can set boundaries. And I actually had some wonderful friends that we met professionally first, became friends, and then we ended up working again professionally even afterwards. But there were still boundaries set. Right. For example, one of my friends in San Antonio, we met professionally. I got promoted to a different location within the same company, and she wanted to work for me. In that setting.
Nice.
And I had to make a really clear decision on how I was going to handle this. She was a good employee. She was a really good friend. And so my decision was this: I was going to interview her just like everyone else. Right. Ultimately, yes, she did pass the interview because she was a good employee. When I hired her, I made it very clear that I was going to treat her with the same respect as everyone else in my team. Right. But that meant no favoritism. Yes. And I set all these expectations way in advance. It was like, right before everything went wrong. And she had to agree to this. And then work was work, and out of sight work was out of work. Yes. We didn't talk about one or the other. Exactly. And I remember, a long story longer, right? I remember when I was promoted to even another location outside of that, and they were doing a farewell party for me. And my replacement was not my best friend, was not my friend. She was at the party, and then my friend was at the party, and we were all talking, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea y'all knew each other outside of work." And I said, "I'll take that as a compliment." Yes. That means you did it. You got it right. Yeah. And then she was like, "Well, why didn't you hire or choose her to replace you?" And I'm like, "Because she's not as qualified as you." Yeah. Right. I mean, the person I chose was the best qualified to replace me. Exactly. Not because she was my friend. Right. Right. So. I get it. That's good. So when we get it right, then we really can have the best of both worlds.
We will return to my interview in a moment, but first, a word from our sponsors, AbilitiCBT. AbilitiCBT is an internet-based cognitive behavioral therapy program designed to provide effective mental health care to people dealing with a variety of concerns, including anxiety, depression, trauma, and grief, and more. The program is guided by experienced therapists who are there to help you understand and navigate your mental health concerns and build long-lasting coping skills. Accessible from any device at any time, AbilitiCBT is delivered through a secure digital platform to combine the benefits of in-person therapy with the convenience of virtual access to fast, easy, and effective support. AbilitiCBT offers a targeted program to help address mental health concerns related to the uniquely challenging aspects of pandemics, including uncertainty, isolation, burnout, caring for family and community members, information overload, and stress management. AbilitiCBT can be accessed online at myicbt.com or by downloading the AbilitiCBT app from the Google Play or App Store. You deserve to feel better. We now return to our interview. I want to ask you this question. When it comes to networking via social media, through LinkedIn, obviously COVID has forced us to find different ways to network and build our relationships with other people. What are some of the recommendations that you would make to new upcoming people entering the workforce about how they make those connections, especially on LinkedIn? I see so many people get this wrong. What advice do you have for them?
So it's funny you say that. So I give presentations on this all the time, and workshops, but one thing first is you want to set your profile up to represent truly what you want people to know, right? So when you set your profile up, it should be a clear message of what industry you're in. It should be, headline speaks to, I would say, your current role or the role you want to be in,
right?
And what you bring to the table. Then you go through and you want to highlight all the experiences and accomplishments that you've done that applies to really who you are or what you want to be.
Yeah. That.
Engaging with the people on LinkedIn, and I really want to be very clear about this. LinkedIn is not a dating format.
Please, could you say that again? Like for the people that way in the back that just don't seem to get this.
LinkedIn is not a dating format.
No.
Right? We don't, and I apologize to any creepers out there, but we don't need creepers.
Are you apologizing to the creepers, man?
Well, I know. There have been, unfortunately, it's women that really seem to get the brunt of this.
Yes.
Where people will come.
Dropping your DMs with a hi. Come on.
It has nothing to do with any relationship. Immediately asking if you're married and does it really matter? I'm like, shut it down. Shut that down now. Save that for Match.com or Fish or something. I don't know. Anyway, save that for that. LinkedIn is not that. LinkedIn is about making those professional connections. It is about growing your business and helping each other professionally in those realms. Yes. Right. Sharing that information. And I encourage, so share your fellow professionals post. Yeah. You know, comment on them in a positive way, how it impacts you. We'll like and we'll support different likes, right? And it gets recognized. I mean, who does it? It shares, it gets recognized. Yeah. I tell job seekers to do this kind of thing, especially with the companies they want to target, right? Start learning about those companies if you don't already know. You can use LinkedIn to see who works there, reach out, see what they're interested in, what's new with that, right? Yeah. Like it, share it, spread the word, spread the joy of that, of why you're really interested, right? And can do it from a very genuine spot. Share the joy of why you're really interested in that. And that in itself shows, right? It shows genuineness too. Yeah. And then we want to know, well, Julie liked my thing, so maybe I want to learn a little more about Julie, and right? Right. And it helps. I mean, when you get your message out there, and it should be consistent though, right? Your persona should be, your branding should all be very consistent. Yeah. So yes, we're on LinkedIn, but recruiters and hiring managers are going to look at your other formats. We're going to look at your Facebook. We're going to look at Instagram, Twitter, and we want to see the same message. Yep.
We want to know who you are. We want to know that it's consistently that.
Yeah. Because if you're fake on one, then it means it's not resonating, right? Exactly. And there's something untruthful about that. So you want to have the same consistency on all of that. Yeah. And when you interact, right? How you interact on your social media represents you. And so that's very important that you share the right message on that too. Yes. But yeah, liking, commenting, posting. And I do a little thing of have Google send me alerts of different companies that I'm interested in. Yes. Right. Or industry trends that I want to know about. Yes. And I'll share it. I'll reshare those, reshare those posts and reshare that message. And it's an easier way to come up with content.
It is.
right?
Way easier. And that could be like a whole other podcast episode. Trust me, I know, like talking about LinkedIn can be a whole episode on its own. Talking about social media and how you represent yourself on social media, a whole other podcast on its own. So yeah, I know, like having these conversations, I love sharing perspectives, but there's so much to learn. So the CEOs of Networking is the name of your book. Yes.
Yes.
And tell the beautiful people listening to this show where they can find your book.
Oh, well, you can definitely find it on Amazon,
Yes.
Barnes and Noble, and Kobo.
Nice.
So I'm on all those different platforms. Definitely, you can buy the ebook, the paperback are available now. My hardcover will coming out right around the last week of this month, actually.
Okay, great.
So,
are you using the beta in Amazon KDP?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah.
The art of experimentation.
Well, New Degree Publish actually did publish my book, and so that makes it available. But my audiobook also will be available in the springtime.
Nice. Wonderful. So you heard it, everyone. The CEOs of Networking, where you can find it, go check it out. I'm sure that you're going to love it. And be sure to reach out to Heidi on LinkedIn. I'm sure she'd love to connect with you and network with you. Heidi, so tell us, what are you reading, watching, listening to right now that you think that our audience would enjoy?
So obviously, besides HR Sound Off, some of my other favorite podcasts are Better Call Daddy with Raina Friedman Watts, Leaders and Loggers with Kevin Dawson, Life in the Leadership Lane by Bruce of HR, which I affectionately call him Bruce Waller, the Bruce of HR. I call him Bruce. He's just an amazing person. And kind of toward the branding side, Marketing Mambo with Terry McDougall is amazing.
Nice.
This past year, I have read, and I don't know if you've read it, Athena Rising, which is about men mentoring women.
No, I have not read that. I definitely will pick that up.
More men need to do that.
Yeah.
Or willing to. Grit, Angela Duckworth, right? And Tony Bridwell's Saturday Morning Tea. Those are all some amazing books, and that one last one is just a really short, quick read, but fun read.
Nice.
And Mallory Herron, she's actually a CEO of Herron HR.
Okay.
She wrote a book called Intentional HR: A Revolution in Strategic Thinking, and that should be coming out next month.
Oh, that sounds really good. I'm looking forward to that. Wow. Okay, so if we can get as many links as we can, we'll put them in the episode so that you can go download and listen to the podcast. And I think this is the first time in a while we've had someone recommend so many podcasts. So thank you so much for sharing that. So let me ask you this. If you could give advice to your younger self, what would you say?
I would say, don't be afraid to be your authentic self. Be true to who you are, embrace that oddballness, and know that you're not the only one that's an oddball. So it's okay. That's what, right? I
love that.
So embrace it, and be open to new ideas, but stay true to your own values.
Oh my goodness. Now you're going to take me on my my Dr. Zeus rant. And you're going to know how much I love Dr. Zeus. But as you were saying that, I just remembered this one thing where he says, "You are you. That is truer than true. Believe that there's nobody youer than you." And I love that. So as you were saying that, it just reminded me of Dr. Zeus. Let me ask you the big question. Sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh, no. I love Dr. Zeus.
You like Dr. Zeus too? Okay, I'm not alone. So the big question, what is the biggest misconception about HR that really bothers you that you would like to set the record straight on right here, right now?
HR is not, nor should it be, the police of a company. What it is, or in my opinion, it should be the foundation that supports great companies, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, it is responsible for setting various policies and procedures, but those are to protect the people, the true stakeholders, the people, your assets of a company. Mm-hmm. It's to protect them, right? Mm-hmm. And so HR should be a place where employees can turn to when they don't know where to go. It should be, helping them find the resources that are available to them and get them the help that they need to be successful. That's what HR is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. My goodness. It's so funny. I was reading a post just before I came to record with you, and it was about this same question that I had asked someone else, because it's the question that I ask at the end of every show. And someone else was sharing it with their network, saying, this is the question that I asked them, and this was how they answered it. And they were asking people, like, what are your thoughts on the different misconceptions? And someone said, I'm completely saddened to still hear that people believe that HR is the police of the organization. We are the termination police and the policy police. No, that is not who we are. But yet so many people believe this to their core, that this is who we are. But it's not even a fraction of who we are and what we do.
And if they believe that, I feel really sad for the companies that they work for, because that means, honestly, it means their HR team hasn't done enough.
Yeah.
It hasn't done enough to change that perception. And they may not all on HR. It could be from the leadership overall.
Yes.
Is forcing HR to be that. Yeah. And that's sad. That really is disheartening to hear.
It is.
And it needs to change.
Absolutely. It's definitely something that we need to work on. But, like with every misconception, that they occur because there's some measure of truth to them, or it's somebody's experience that they have had. So it's like misconception and perception can be like can go together, because it's someone's perception, therefore it is their reality. That does not make it fact. Therefore, it can be a misconception. But if that's your experience, no one can take that away from you. It's just, how do we deal with that to make it better? Yeah. Heidi, you have survived your time in the sound booth. Thank you so much for being here today and having this conversation with me. I appreciate you so much for saying yes and for coming on the show and having this conversation. I wish you, your book, and the sales of your book every success and great opportunity to continue to learn more about you and network with you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Julie. It has been amazing to be on your show. And I love how you bring global HR to everyone, just the joy of you. I can't wait to continue sharing how you get the word out of why HR is important and why it needs to change. Yes. And why we need to embrace it, why we need to embrace it. So absolutely, you do an amazing job on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us in the sound booth today. I hope that you found this information from this episode useful. You can find me on all social media platforms at I am Julie Turney. That's I-am Julie Turney. And you can find this episode or this show on most digital platforms: Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Thanks to sponsors AbilitiCBT and Rock Solid Entertainment for helping me to put this content together for you. And I will see you again in the next Sound Off.